Hello guys, and welcome back. And in this video we're going to move on from configuring our CAD engine to starting to use some of the basic CAD commands in order to produce a drawing. So before we do that, I wanted to show you guys this is a layout that I was actually working on back before Christmas, and I don't know if I'm going to use it or not. I haven't decided yet. But as you can see, I mean, it's you know, you can come up with a layout design and kind of, you know, once you know your dimensions of all your structures and, you know, roads and all that stuff, you know, you can come in here and start you know, adding some detail to your drawing to see, you know, kind of what it's going to look like. This layout here is what I call a room filler, and as you can see, it's going to be two levels with a double helix. I don't know if I'm going to use this layout or not. Yeah, I just haven't decided yet. I wanted to show you guys something else. So like here's another layout that I'd come up with, and as you can see, this is the bench work. So all this is dimensional lumber. The little green boxes there, they represent what would be a, you know, 1x1 for like the legs. And so the cool thing is, you know, if you wanted to know what to cut this piece of wood to, you know, you can come in here and use that dimension command, and there, well, there it's 1 9 30 inch. It may be a little bit too much on the precision. Let's see, whoops, dimension, linear dimension. Yeah, let's just make it to the nearest. Let's make it to the nearest eighth. There we go. So it'd be 1 foot 9 1/8 inch. You know, so anything you need to get a dimension on in order to know how to cut it, you know, you have access to it. You know, if you wanted to get this one here, let's see if I can. So on dimension from there up to there, and it looks like I would need to cut that piece of wood 3 foot 8.5 inch long. So you can see the benefit of that already. When, you know, if you implement the cookie cutter method, you know, or even if you're going to use spline road bed, you know, you can still come in here and figure out you know, where the track is actually going to be relative to, say, the framework or the bench work. You know, like I would know that, say for instance here, I would know that, you know, the frame is what's 1 3/4 inch off the bench work there. Or if I come in here, see if I can grip edit that and pull that down to the actual edge of the table. So you'd be 3 inches off the edge of the, the edge of the bench work, or not the edge of your bench work, but, you know, the edge, like this would be the fascia here, that dark gray line, this one right here that I'm highlighting. So, you know, the track's 3 inches off the fascia. So, I mean, there's a lot of, it just helps me to design, and that's why I like to use CAD. You can see here, like, I've got my grades set and got track. The elevations are actually in the box. So I think, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what was what. This was another design I'd come up with. But anyway, so yeah, just to show you guys, you know, what it'll be useful for. It's another design. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our prototype drawing, and like I said, this maybe I didn't mention this, but this video is going to be just about polylines, because polylines are really important when it comes to computer-aided drafting. So I'm going to go in here and open up our prototype drawing, and yeah, so that's where we left off at. So a polyline. So you know, poly means many. So when I think of a polyline, I think of it's a line that has many properties and attributes, and it's different from, say, just turn my cap lock on there. If we type in L and hit enter, you can draw a line. Okay, and you can leave that connected, and you can draw another line, you can draw another line, you can draw another line. Right click to end, and you can see there we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different entities on the screen. Okay, now if we do that same thing with a polyline, let me just erase this here. If we do that same thing with a polyline, I'm going to type in PL for polyline. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we do that same thing with a polyline, it looks like there's 4 lines there, but as you can see, it's treating it as one entity. As you can see, when I hover over one line, all of the lines highlight. The reason that this is well, there's a couple of reasons why you would want a polyline instead of a regular line. Two of the biggest reasons, I think, is because when you go to hatch something, so let me open my other drawing back up here. This is running a little slow because my graphics card, because I'm recording this video at the same time. So as you can see here, you know, the way I was able to get all this shading in here is I had to have what's, you know, a closed polyline. So when you go to shade something, your polyline has to, you know, start at point A and then end back up at point A, and then you can define what the hatch pattern looks like. So like if you drill it, look in here at the roadbed, you know, where the ballast is at, you can see I've got all those little, it's called a sand AR hatch, I think is what it's called. You can see where I've used the solid for the water, and, you know, some other patterns here for the rooftops and, you know, trees and all that. So that would be one of the reasons why you'd want to use a polyline. The other reason you want to use a polyline is, well, let's say you have a track plan that looks like this, and I know we have, you know, angles here, it wouldn't look like that, but say we have a track plan that looks like that, and we do the same thing with, you know, with just a regular line. By the way, I drew this top one as a polyline, and this is just regular lines. Well, when you're trying to figure out grade, you know, you want the length. That's probably not a good example. Let me redo this here. Say we have some track and it's doing something like this right here, you know, on our layout. And I'm going to use a couple of commands here, and I'm not expecting you guys to, you know, if you've never used CAD, I'm not expecting you to okay, those are small radiuses. Let me give it a radius of, like, I don't know, say 10 feet. There we go, it's more sweeping. Okay, so this was drawn at a polyline, and say we have a, you know, an elevation here of say 0, and we want to run we want the grade for the track to be, say, at a +2%. Well, you need to know the length from here to here in order to figure that out, right? So a polyline will enable us to select the line as one entity and give us a total length. So here it was 44.9 feet. If we drew that same thing with just the line commands, and then I come in here and use the fillet command, which is what I'm using in order to create these curves. You can see down there F for fillet. It's asking me if I type in R down here, I can specify the radius. By the way, when you get to a command line and you see these little blue commands, think of that as data input for this particular command, which this command is fillet. And these are the different ways I can specify how I want my fillet to to work. So I'm going to specify the R for radius. Type in R there. And well, 10 is what I typed in the last time, so I'm just going to take the default, or I could type in 10 again. And if I select here and here, it still does the fillet command, but as you can see, I would have to click on each one of these entities because they're all separate, and I have to add them all together in order to get the length of that from here to here. So that's another reason why you'd want to use the polyline command. Another reason is because if you look here, let me just draw another polyline up here and just draw a regular line here underneath it. So as a polyline, you can specify how wide that line is. So over here where it says geometry in the properties window, you can specify like one end of it, how wide you want it to be. You can specify as a complete unit, or as the global width, from the beginning of the line to the end of the line, how wide it's going to be. Or you can do it at the start of the line. I guess this is the end of the line. Yeah, it's probably the end of the line. So but in order to make your drawing more clearer and to make it look better, you can specify a width. So if I highlight that, I can change the width of that line to say 0.1. And as you can see, that line is now a lot wider than that one is if you compare the two. So I couldn't do that on just a regular line because there's nowhere for me to enter in that information. So another thing is that there is a command. Say you have a polyline here and you've drawn one, and then you forget to draw, you forgot to draw the line coming out this way. Let me back up here a second. If I draw a polyline like this, I'm going to end it there. Okay, so I've just got one line on the screen. Then say you forgot, the same case scenario, you wanted to add a line to that. So type in PL for polyline again, let it grab the end and draw another line. Well, that's still going to be two entities, but with the polyline there's a command called pedit, and the shortcut is, well, it's AutoCAD's PE. Let's see if it's the same thing for draft site. It is. So type in PE for polyline edit, and you can select your polyline, and then down here again, these are the different options you got. We want to join. See where it says join there, and then you got the J's underlined. So just type in J to select that option, hit enter, and then select the entities that you want to join, and right click to enter in the command. Right click again or hit enter on your keyboard, however you have it set up. See, now it's one entity, it's not two. So you'll find these commands very useful when you're drawing, working on your layout. And it's probably not so obvious right now, but as we progress further with the videos, I think you'll see that understanding a polyline and using the commands that I just showed you just for that polyline, for polylines in general, you're going to find that very very useful. So I know this was probably a short video, but I wanted to kind of camp out on polylines for just a second and show you guys the importance of the polyline. So we'll see you in the next video.